Hello, this is Captain Margaret from the Nines, bringing you our third State of Decay video. This video, as you may have guessed from the title, is going to cover all of the upgradable vehicles that you can get in State of Decay, as well as a look at some of the special cases where you may not want to upgrade your vehicle, and a look at the Independence Day pack that was released in 2018, which contained 3 more vehicles. Then I will be finishing with some of my ideas as to how vehicles could be improved in State of Decay 2, beyond just not having them fly off into orbit the moment you repair them in Heartland. As you may know, in State of Decay there are 3 kinds of upgrade kits you can get from traders or from the auto shop. There's light, medium, and heavy upgrade kits that can be applied specifically to different kinds of cars to generate different upgraded versions of those cars. I will be covering how many seats they've got, how many slots are in the boot, and anything else that's very specifically special about the cars because each of them has their own little niche that they fill. So without further ado, let's get on to the light vehicles. The first light vehicle we're going to look at is the Road Racer, which upgrades to the Road Mangler, which has 2 seats, 3 slots in the boot. It's the fastest car in the game by a long shot, and it's actually quite tough for its size. This car is ideal for people who play the game a lot on their own and need to get around the map really fast to look after enclaves or get to places to do small missions. It's not too good for looting because of the limited boot space, but it's very quick and very tough. So as far as a solo player car is concerned, it's very good. Secondly, in the light category, we have the Vagabond or the Desperado, which both upgrade to the Trail Beast. This thing has 2 seats in the car, 6 slots in the boot, a huge fuel capacity, it's faster than you might expect, and it can go literally anywhere thanks to its huge ground clearance and decent suspension. This car is invaluable on maps like Drucker County and Cascade Hills, which have a lot of very rocky terrain that you need to go over. It's not so useful on Meager Valley because it's very flat, but it's still a very good car to have regardless. The only limitation on it is the amount of seats that there are, so it's not so good if you're playing with friends. But again, as a solo car, it's exceptionally useful. Next in this category we have the Brogan cars and the Survey car, so all of the little hatchbacks, which all upgrade to the Hellion. This thing has 4 seats inside, 5 slots in the boot, it's fast, and it's lightly armoured, so it can't take too much punishment. However, it's the fastest car in the game with 4 seats, so if you play a lot with your friends and you want to drive around as a little squad together, this thing is the car for you. And finally in this section, and probably the least exciting one of the bunch, we have the Norma, which upgrades to the Z-Buster. This thing has 6 slots in the boot, 4 seats in the car, 2 in the cab and 2 in the flatbed. It has a reinforced spiked ram on the front, which is actually quite useful for hitting juggernauts. I think it does increase damage. However, the rest of the car isn't very heavily armoured, and can be damaged quite easily from the sides or the back. It's kind of slow as well, and it doesn't handle very well, so it's still useful, but it's not great. Next, moving on to the medium cars, we begin with the Reims 5 or the Utility Truck, which both upgrade to the Viking. This thing has 6 slots in the boot, only 4 seats in the car because the 2 in the flatbed are replaced with 2 large fuel canisters, which in turn give it a massive fuel capacity and efficiency. It also has very high ground clearance, but similar to the Norma, it doesn't have very much armour on the car itself. So it is actually quite easily damaged, especially if a zombie, let alone a feral, jumps on the back and starts hitting those gas canisters, then you're in for a real amount of trouble, because that thing's going to burst into flames immediately. This thing is similar to the Hellion in that if you play with friends, it has 4 seats inside and can go anywhere, so it's another very useful car with a high capacity for people. Next in this section we have the Legendary or the Legende, or however you want to say it, which upgrades to the Impaler. This thing has 4 slots in the boot, 4 seats in the car, it's pretty fast, not so good with fuel and not very heavily armoured around the sides. However, on the front it has a huge ram, which means you can hit basically anything and you'll win the fight. This car is not amazing at anything, however it's really cool looking. I really like the look of this car. So from an aesthetic standpoint it's amazing, but it doesn't do anything particularly special. However, it's awesome. Next we have the Miragra, which upgrades to the Wichita ES. This thing has 4 slots in the boot, 4 seats in the car. It's decent with fuel, it's quite lightly armoured, but the big thing about this car is that it's very quiet, and then coupled with the driver perk, which gives even more vehicle stealth, that means you can get around any map with only alerting zombies that you drive right past. And those zombies are going to run in from the side of the road and start chasing you. This thing is super stealthy, so on Nightmare mode especially, I would recommend using this car, just to get around the map if you don't want to turn up at your base followed by a horde of 20 zombies and a couple of juggernauts. And finally in this section we have the Maximilian, which upgrades to the Mega Max. This thing has 2 seats in the front, 4 slots in the boot. It's basically a Mad Max Easter egg, because it has 2 fuel cans in the back which give it a really high fuel capacity. It's very fast, but it's lightly armoured because I think that they used most of the upgrade kit to give it the biggest spoiler I have ever seen. But this thing is really fun. It's the fastest car in the medium section. Doesn't do much else, but it's just a really cool car to drive. Finally, in the standard section of the game's upgradable cars, we have the heavies. The heavy kits can be applied to, for starters, the military truck. which upgrades to the Big Boss. This thing has 6 seats in the car, which is 4 in the cabin and 2 in the flatbed. I think it's the most seats out of any upgradable car. Then it has 6 slots in the boot. It's okay with fuel. It's got a massive reinforced ram on the front, and due to the armor all around as well as the reinforced ram, it's the toughest car in the game. It does get stuck quite easily, however I will cover that in a later section. The next car in the heavy section is the ambulance or the cargo van or the passenger van, which all upgrade to the Bandito. This thing has 8 slots in the boot, 4 seats in the car, heavily armoured, slow but extremely useful. And this thing has the highest boot capacity of any upgraded car. And as a side note, it doesn't matter which variant of the van you upgrade, you always end up with 4 seats. Some of the unupgraded vans have 2 seats, but that doesn't matter, you will always get 4 seats on your Bandito. Next is my personal favourite car in the game, which is the Paleto, which upgrades to the Smash Wagon. This thing has 4 seats in the car, 6 slots in the boot, a reinforced ram on the front, heavy armour all round, it's fast, it's got high ground clearance and it's decent with fuel. This is the ultimate middle ground car. It isn't the best at anything, however, it does everything really well. This is easily the first car I would upgrade with a heavy upgrade kit. And finally we have the Taxi, the Police Car and the Royale, which upgrade to the Kaiser, which has 4 seats in the car, 6 slots in the boot, decently armoured, it's fast, it's slidey, which means it's fun to drive, has the lowest fuel capacity of any car in the heavy section, but is also the fastest of any car in the heavy section. However, if you're upgrading a heavy car, you probably want it to be tough rather than fast, so this is definitely the last car I would upgrade in this section. Moving on now to the Independence Pack vehicles. The Independence Pack was released on Independence Day of 2018 and contained a bunch of crazy firework weapons as well as 3 cars. These were the Burninator, the Meat Wagon and the Pyro Hawk. The Burninator is fun but not very practical. It has flame tubes that go along the side, and when you press the horn button, fire comes out and burns zombies. I thought initially this would allow me to set fire to hordes by driving past them, however that's not the case. You can just use the flames to burn zombies off of the side of your car, which uses fuel and is just not very effective, not very good, and it's more aesthetically pleasing than anything else, so I definitely wouldn't recommend spending the 1000 influence to get this thing. Next we have the Meat Wagon, which is actually very useful in Nightmare mode. It's a slightly upgraded cargo van with 2 seats in the front and the ability to, upon pressing the horn button, drop a carcass of meat out of the back of the car, which acts as a lure for zombies. And as it's an upgraded cargo van, it also has a very high boot capacity of 8, so you can drive up to an area you want to loot, drop one of the things outside of it so that all the zombies run from there to the lure, drive in, start looting and get out and you're fine. It's a very useful car for that. Unfortunately it is quite slow, but it's definitely the most useful out of the bunch. And finally we have the Pyro Hawk, which is totally useless. The horn button fires fireworks out of the side which don't actually damage zombies in any way that I can see and just attracts their attention, so it's a glorified horn that costs fuel. It's trash, I hate it, and I have no idea why they put this car in. The next section I'm going to touch on is the special cases, where you may not want to upgrade your car because it's actually more useful in its unupgraded state. The first one I'm going to touch on is the Brogan Trekker, which I would definitely say to not upgrade because it has a roof box, which means it gives this car, this tiny little fast hatchback, 8 slots in the boot, which is super useful because it's faster than the cargo van, has more seats, and I think is on par with speed for the Bandito. So it's a very, very useful car for looting, because it's a fast little 4-seater hatchback with 8 slots in the boot. So you should definitely keep this car as it is, because when you upgrade it to the Hellion, it loses 3 slots to become the Hellion, because the Hellion only has 5 slots in the boot. The next is actually an aesthetic thing. There is a variant of the Paleto CR which has a red talon paint job. It has RT05 written on the side, it has their logo with Death to the Living Dead written on it, which is pretty cool. And my mind tells me it's faster than the normal Paleto, but that might just be the placebo effect. However, when you upgrade it to the Smash Wagon, you lose the paint job, so if you want to keep your red talon card, don't upgrade it. Finally, in this section we have the military truck, which, when you upgrade it to the Big Boss, gets a massive reinforced ram on the front, but unfortunately, because this car is then so long with the added ram, it can get stuck very easily with all 4 wheels off the ground. And that's just really, really awkward if you're driving on anything that isn't a road, because it happens all the time. So if you want to drive your military truck off-road, I wouldn't upgrade it to the Big Boss. However, in Nightmare mode, I would always upgrade it and just stick to the roads, because the massive armor rating that thing has is essential for Nightmare mode. Now that's it as far as actual information is concerned about what's in the game, so if that's all you were here for, then you can stop watching now. I'm going to finish off with some ideas I have about how they could improve vehicles and things they could add, and I'm going to begin with an idea of Red Talon upgrade kits obtained through Daybreak. These could include things like mounted weapons, improved armor, improved speed, just things to make it very, very unique, and as a possible limitation factor on this to make them not too OP, I would say that the repair kits for these should be specific, so you get Red Talon repair kits, and you can only craft them using the auto shop, which would mean that you have the auto shop as a bit more of a permanent fixture in your base if you're going to utilise these cars, because the auto shop to me has always been something that you build and then you dismantle when you've upgraded all your cars, and it's not that great. I think it should be more of a permanent fixture, so I think using it like this would be very, very interesting. The second thing is more of an annoyance. I think the utility truck is a very unique vehicle, which is the Reims V, if you didn't know, with the RAM and the lights and the extra bits on the side. I think this car should upgrade to something unique as well. I think it should upgrade to a tow truck, where you can drive across the map and tow a car back to your base at half speed for twice the fuel cost. This would give you a separate option to sprinting over there using marathon or energy drinks. I don't think it would be too OP, because a lot of zombies would be able to catch you if you were driving at half speed. I just think it would be very interesting to have. Next is actually something in a similar vein. I think the Brogan Trekker should upgrade to something other than the Hellion, or like the Hellion Trekker or something, because every car in the game gets better when you upgrade it, other than the Brogan Trekker, which gets worse. I think they should definitely address this and make something slightly different when you upgrade that. Possibly use a different kind of upgrade kit, make it a bit slower but maintain the boot capacity. I think that would be a really, really good idea. And finally, is just an annoyance of mine, that the risk of sitting in the back of a flatbed truck, of just getting grabbed and pulled out immediately, is not equalled with any reward. And I think that the reward should be you can stand in the back and shoot zombies and throw Molotovs. I really want to be able to stand in the back of a truck with one of my mates driving, just spraying into a horde as we drive past. It would be incredible, and I really want to be able to do it. And that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope it helped. If you have any ideas as to things you want me to do in the future, anything I got wrong, any other opinions you want to share on the vehicles or on my ideas, absolutely put them in the comments below. I'll attempt to get to every single one. Coming up on screen in a second are going to be 2 other State of Decay videos we've done that you should check out. One's a guide to the Red Talon operatives, and one is a Nightmare guide. And yeah, I hope you find those useful. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.